Dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to you all. Welcome to our show, Scholar Alaf with Dr. S.M. Riyazul Islam. Dr. Riyazul Islam will be joining us from South Korea. Dr. Riyazul Islam is currently working as an assistant professor at 𝐒𝐜𝐴 University, Korea. He was also an assistant professor at University of Dhaka from 2004 to 2005 to 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, he's also a postdoctoral fellow at Memorial University, Canada. He also served at 𝐒𝐜𝐴 University for the Research Center for 2014 to 17, and then from 2017 onward, he is working as an assistant professor at 𝐒𝐜𝐴 University, Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, he's also affiliated with IEEE and since 2010 and served in various capacities. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are very delighted to have Dr. S.M. Riyazul Islam on our show this evening. Dr. Riyazul Islam, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Dr. Mahfuz Rahman, and thank you, your this organization that you have created and founded, and some other your co-founders and co-organizers, and welcoming all of our viewers, they who are watching this show or event, whatever you say, from across the globe, from Bangladesh, Malaysia, and even some other countries. So yes, I am Riyazul Islam, and I'm currently working in 𝐒𝐴 University, Korea. And before that, I worked in another university here in Korea, that is 𝐒𝐜𝐴 University, from where I also, took my PhD degree. And before that, I was working in University of Dhaka as an assistant professor and a lecturer for around 8 years. My journey in Dhaka University started in 2005, and before that, I took my HSC, passed HSC from some college, and 𝐾𝐞𝐚𝐫 government college. And before that, I was in a village that is in Chuananga district, and Jayarampur High School. So that was my just academic institutions, and that started long back, and now up to here. So yeah, based on your some other kinds of plan, we can go back and forth.
Right, Dr. Riyazul Islam, thank you very much for joining us. We came to know that you started your journey somewhere in 2014 in South Korea. So back then you were doing some research with 𝐒𝐜𝐴 University, and then you started working with 𝐒𝐴 University. So how was how's the environment, research environment and culture in Korea?
Okay, thank you. So let me break down these things in two phases. In the first phase, that I would say that during my PhD degree, because I earned the PhD degree from the same university that where later on I joined as a postdoctoral fellow with an affiliated center that is in that's called Wireless Communications Research Center or something. So first, briefly, I can say about my PhD, and at the time the research I did, and later on I will come back, directly to your question that you raised. So so even we can give you some preamble, and that is that when I was at Dhaka University, and I was a lecturer at the time, that I started, let's say 2007 at the time. And definitely, they who joined is a public university, and even the private university, whatever. So one of the main goal is to complete their PhD degree as soon as possible. So at the time, I became motivated from some of my senior brothers, and they who are also my colleagues. So from Dhaka University, so and some of them, they actually started their PhD degree in South Korea. So that was my motivation, that I felt, oh, so these guys are quite renowned, and some of them are really very smart guys, and they are working in various top organizations, research organization, university in the world, including Europe, America, Korea, and many where. So I just became motivated by them, that okay, so it's good that to take a degree from South Korea. And at the time, they started, giving some, scholarships, PhD, the government scholarships. The government scholarships was mainly the prestigious scholarships was the IITA. So that is from their Ministry of Knowledge Economy. So this was, full support for your living expense, for your tuitions, and many other things. So because, I just applied and I got it, so it was really, exciting that, okay, because it's a government scholarship, so it's okay to go. So that was the starting. And after coming here, then I saw that professor that, and under which I was supervised. So he was quite renowned in Korea. And he was he is regarded one of the icon in information and communication engineering. So I really became motivated to know and to learn. Then after when I joined, I saw that I don't know anything. I mean, the mathematics that what I need, the statistical knowledge that what I need, some of the advanced communication things, even I don't know the basics of those. It was a complete mess. And so, having a very, very hard time. So, but they who really wanted to have the PhD journey, they are become really very motivated. That, okay, no problem. Whatever the hard surface comes in, we will penetrate and then go through. So the same things happened to me. So the first 6 months to 1 year, it was really very hard. But once I started, it was really good. So it was all about mathematics and statistics. Even though we are just seeing the communication engineering, this information engineering, but it's all about mathematics and statistics that I applied. So I saw that they are producing lots of good paper and essay papers. There are lots of international students over there from Pakistan, India, Vietnam, and many other countries. And I really had good relationships with them. And eventually, and even many of my Chinese friends, they still are my good friends and networks. So I learned a lot of things from each of them. From some of them I learned research. Some of them I learned how to write it. I think I still remember that one of my Pakistani friends that I really directly I learned that how to write research paper from him. At that time I had no idea. I know something like how to write. I knew about that. Okay, I can write a paragraph. I can write an essay. I can write a bio. But I didn't know that the research has some specific language. So anyway, eventually I felt good and finished the degree. I came up with the new problems and very state-of-art research problems. I worked on physical layer things, that how channel estimations can be done, and when we do the communications from the transmitter to receiver, that when you send the information, we need to understand the environment itself. So mathematically and statistically, how we can capture those channel dynamics, environmental dynamics. If we don't know the environment, that we can't transmit our information. So that was the thing that I did. So in the same way, I continued in my postdoctoral. And postdoctoral, I actually started the journey in a very recent, things, that is, 5G, communications. And, the 5G communications is very fast and very, high capacity, and they can handle lots of users and lots of, data rates and those kind of things. So I was one of the, the first guys here that, that I also work for 5G, and I have good contributions regarding, some of the things, especially in physical layers, NOMA techniques and those. And I think that was, my, I can say that is the beginning of my beginning. I mean, in my research career. Yeah. So the postdoctoral research experience was good. At the time, I learned that how to set up the networks. I learned that how to really, conduct the independent research and how to really supervise other students. I recruited many of the, graduate students for our centers, and I supervise them directly. And some of them are now my colleagues. So even here in this Sejong University. So this all together, it was a learning phase, or rather I can say that it's a, cover up of my learning that I learned from my PhD, that was an opportunity to practice. So that, I can say, yeah. So regarding the problems, I worked on 5G communications things, and regarding the, professional things, I really learned the networking and those kind of things in my postdoctoral.
Right. Doctor, thank you very much for the sharing. So what we came to know about you is that you, back home in Bangladesh, you were serving at the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, University of Dhaka. And you joined there, you've been there for some time. So the way Dhaka University is recruiting, not only Dhaka University, I would say many other public universities in Bangladesh, the way they are recruiting their staff or academic staff, and the way that the Korea is recruiting staff, because you also joined there and you got a job, you're working fabulously. So what is the basic difference you notice in terms of recruiting the academic staff in Dhaka University or any other university in Bangladesh and in Korea, Prof?
Well, you see, I mean, of course, you perceive, and many of our, the honorable, viewers and spectators, they also know about it very clearly, that this is a really massive area that where, Bangladesh universities, academicians, and policymakers, they should address, very urgent basis. The recruitment process is a very fundamental and basic pillars, to advance in any academic organizations, and not only academic organizations. Even you go to the bank and in any kind of public or private organizations, I think recruitment, I mean, without doubt, the recruitment plays a very significant role. Now, if I can answer that directly, the process of recruitments, are very old in Dhaka University or in any other university or country. So, but mostly in abroad, Korea, China, Japan, and America, if we just take side by side, we can see a very different picture. So now, one of the things is that if you just read the description of the recruitment in an advertisement they provide, that advertisements will discourage you as a really an up-to-date researcher. This advertisement itself will be the reason why you will not apply. What they want, they start with the that what you did in your SSC, that is secondary schools, and then what you did in your high school, and then your undergrad, and what is the CGPA. And nowhere it is mentioned that your research, you should give some research. I don't find that really that is that if you have a PhD, and if you have a good PhD, if you have a good paper, and if you have a recognized paper, so that is completely absent of that. At the same time, on the other side, let's say from Korea, they will ask you that what is your recent publications that you have. That is the very first things. You have a PhD, that's a very basic things. Of course, you have a PhD because you are applying for the professor position, so we don't care. We already know that you have a PhD. So that's without any question. Now, without PhD, nobody can think of to be a professor here. Even India, maybe you are aware of that in India, they have stopped, taking, non-PhD teachers. All they must, should have the PhD now. So they ask your research profile, that what are the recent publications you have, that is the number one. And they want that what are the, impact of your research, that how much citations you got on those research you also submit. And three, you provide a research plan. What you would do in next 3 years and 5 years, we need your research plan. So based on that plan, we will see that really this sorts of plan is plausible and feasible or not, and and that goes with your background. So that is the things. And then they ask some recommendation letter, that it is not the matter of you and your research. Also, we also need recommendation letters from the people who know you, the people who worked with you, and they are very well aware of your research, and they can recommend that yes, this research is impactful and he's a promising potentials. So these, some of the thing. Of course, in addition to that, they consider some other, parameters like your results, and some definitely that do. But these are the basic. But you see that, unfortunately, in our, universities is completely different. In our university, they just take, 20 minutes interview. If you just, have a honors degree and a master's degree, perhaps you perhaps have a first class, degree or something. Maybe 10, 20 years back, most of the people, people that who applied for the positions, they really had good result in them. But recently, that is also become questionable, that even in terms of result. So these are the things we should focus on their skills, in terms of teaching skills, in terms of research skills. So these things, but this is completely absent, and our policymakers should really focus on that parts. And I'll say something something else. That is, when they go for the recruitment of professors, the professors now should have a very different kinds of categories. Some professors, are really good for teaching. They might not have interest, that much some interest, but they might not have that much interest for research, or even they might not be good enough, for producing research result. So they are fine if they're really good at teaching, so they can continue. So the university can give the name the teaching professor. At the same time, in parallel, there might be research professor, and there might be some professor, their load will be distributed. And also there are another different kinds of professor that coming from an industry background. Look, I mean, there are many people who are, let's say, Walton now, they are really good in producing technologies, and they are nurturing. And I'm sure of it that many of their engineers are really qualified enough, and perhaps they are not interested to work there anymore because maybe they are over pressure, over stress because of industry. But they really have something that they can share with their students, with their fellow others members, and they can teach that how industry works this flow. So the university can hire them, as a contract basis, the 2 years, 3 years, 5 years contract basis. And even many of them, I'm sure that they will work, even just for a low salary as an honorarium. They even don't want salary. They are happy that to be an honorary professors. So we should think of how to hire them and how to exploit their capacities, their skills and talents. So yeah, also we can hire some guest professors from, let's say, some other ongoing in corporate world and in some other technological university. So this kind of fusion we need to introduce in our academic systems. Hello, I can't hear you.
Doctor, there's other aspects that I keep noticing about Malaysian universities, Korean or China, or even in US and all around the world. I would say they do have a visiting professor, visiting research fellow, all sort of positions that are basically coming from different part of the world. It can be in a foreign professor, it can be a non-academic like from industry and all those things that you are highlighting. But we don't see that culture in public university in Bangladesh. That I don't know whether there is a practice, but if you could shed light on that. The second is when you join in Korean university, what the difference you saw in terms of the culture? When you, I mean, just now we're talking about recruitment. Then when you join, then what do you see the difference? The culture, the research culture, the culture that nurture you, the culture that help you to grow between Bangladesh, the university that you serve, and in Korea, Doctor.
Okay, yeah, so a good question. In fact, so I would really appreciate to bring up this issue in front. So the first thing that you talked about the visiting professor. I mean, this is basically a consequential thing. If you have a cultures, I mean, that you ask in the second phase, if you really have a culture, then you have this visiting stops as a consequential thing. Why you need the visiting professor at the first place? Even if you don't have the postdoctoral recruitment process, if you don't have the PhD recruitment process, I mean, the most of the research, the contributions in foreign universities that we see around us is basically coming from PhD students and postdoctoral, actually more about the postdoctoral phase that is completely absent. And you know that why those are absent, because we are not in the mainstream the way if we all want the mainstreams on the knowledge creation, distributions and knowledge generations, then definitely those things will be joining as a side things as you go forward. Those visiting staffs, recruitment staffs, various kinds of collaboration staff will be joining from different entry and exit path. But I think that kind of things is greatly absent. But anyway, I'm not telling you that we really need to go. Still on a limited basis, at least in the starting phase, our Bangladeshi diaspora, they who are working in different platforms, like you said, in Malaysia, in Europe and America, they will be happy to give some lectures and for 6 months and for 2 months, for 3 months to spend their vacations and then share a course in Dhaka University in Buyet and then some other platforms. So they should think about it, and they should neutralize their ego they have there inside. They should not feel their ego that that if I now recruit my students and they're coming for the visiting and they go for the lectures, they share the research experience, they might feel bad in that and these sorts of things. I think it's more about the egoic problems that the academicians and have over the long times. So many of our young generations, they are really very open, and they want to introduce this kind of things. My students, I sometimes talk with them, I see their activities, and they are really quite open to embrace these sorts of things. And I believe that some positive things will be coming. But at the same times, we really have to push in every sectors that, hey, we need to bring these things, the visiting staffs. Now, regarding the cultures that you say, I mean, if I leave something, maybe you can, remind me. Yeah, so we can go forward. And regarding the cultures that you said, yes, the culture is really very different. So the one thing, that I said, there are many things we can say, but I will focus on specific, directions. The direction is here, the culture is your work. The culture is your responsibility. The culture is what things you are responsible for. What's your duty? So, iterations of these things are actually, all about. For examples, here I know that what I will have to do in next 6 months. Here I know what I will have to do in next 1 year. Well, these same things, at Dhaka University, or let's say Russian University professor, he also knows what he will have to do. He knows that even though I don't go for teaching well, if I don't, publish, it doesn't matter. But here I know if I don't publish, I can't enter any, things in my, research assessment portal. And if I don't have the research assessment portal after 2 years, after 3 years, when performance reviews will come, everything will be, disappear. Everything should be perished. Now that's actually, that will push to set up your new culture. Now, because of that, we are really, forced to bring the results, to push the result, to, we have student evaluations. We are forced to teach well in the classrooms. We are really, pushed to set a very, smart assignment and homework for our students, so it knocks, their brain. And we are always, try to be innovative for our questions paper that we set in the exam. So it's all about education. It's all about, if someone praise you here, let's say my dean, a few days back, was saying congratulations. But this congratulations is all about that my research paper, in a very top rank one journal in our community, got more than 100 citations in 2 years. So because of that, I got that congratulations. It's not all about that. How can I praise someone in my higher authority? So these, from kind of, admirations and admirer-based, flatterer kind of, cultures, we have to turn towards, innovative and performance-oriented cultures. That things, I think we have a really great scope to improve there.
Right, Doctor. Thank you very much, Doctor. How about the students, the quality of students that you used to teach in Dhaka University and universities in Korea? The potential, the capability of doing research.
Then I would say that is, fantastic in Dhaka University. The student that I handle in Dhaka University, they are amazing. Of course, I mean, I was not happy, with them at that time, right, back then, because, a student has, general characteristics. They don't want to do your homework. They don't want to study. This is a general phenomena. I mean, you are meritorious or not, it doesn't matter. So this will always happen. You go in any university in the world, in Harvard, they are always reluctant. But I really believe and I really understand, based on my experiences, those students are really fabulous. But we fail to nurture them. Here, students are average quality. Some students are definitely good. But here, we nurture them. We have to nurture them very well because of the management and, and because of the cultures that you told about. This culture is education culture. This about the knowledge-centric culture. It's all about knowledge-centric culture. There is nothing like that, if I go to any office randomly, that office is, is really trying hard that what sorts of, research things that we can come up with, what sorts of projects we can come up with, what sorts of, activities, hackathon we can come up with. But, these things unfortunately was absent. So here in Korea, at least even in Malaysia, I guess for sure, here we don't see that in an academic office they are discussing about president and prime ministers and what kind of things, and they don't discuss these things. They know that their politicians will do their job right. If they don't do their things right, then they will hesitate. They will protest at the right time. So the students are largely involved in club-oriented things. They are practicing the science club, the English club, language club, robot club, so those kind of things. here we don't have, that, I mean, you say, I mean, that the political affiliated things are really largely absent here. That's also a matter that where we can improve.
Right. So if we talk about Korea, if we talk about China and this part of the world, we'll say they are the hub of innovation. That's how they are moving forward. So with that note, what we notice is that they are going forward like in a very fast speed for getting new technology. Similarly, we do have a lot of universities, engineering university back in Bangladesh. All this Buet and Kuwait, Ruwait, and all this, and they are cream of the cream. I always feel, I don't know, I feel very proud that we have a huge crowd who are outstanding, and we have a lot of engineering school, but we don't really see innovation out there, and or we are very much dependent on this part of the world. We're just waiting for other countries' innovation. Why is such things is happening, and what can we do to make this to bring a change, Doctor?
You see, I mean, this is always, something about that, which comes first, egg or chicken, these kind of things. There's always an really a good point of maybe academic argument and even time passing argument. And, there are always 2-3 groups, and they will have their own argument. They will say, hey, government doesn't give us this and that, so why would do? Now, government, if you go to the government, people and the bureaucracy, then they would say, oh, university, you don't produce, anything, why would you? So this kind of things, goes on. But really a very, good focus that you gave on the things that you raised, in 2019, that means last year when I visited in, Chongqing, University of, some telecommunications technology, something, 𝐒𝐜𝐴𝐷. And then I also had, the local, due to the, I was invited by the local government of Chinese government from that city. So that city, so I mean, the mayor, he is basically a very powerful communist leader, and some people, they believe that next, next leader of Chinese, Communist Party will be that person. I forgot the name of that man. So that means he might be the followers and of President Xi. So he but you see, it is politics. So but he need to show something, right, to his people and to the party leader. So that's why what he did, what he is trying to do, he first wanted to build his own city and own province, Chongqing province. That if he can show that I can build up my province, so that means I can build up the whole China. Now think about his things. I mean the way he's thinking. So what is his differentiation and his specialty that he wanted to bring out? He will create the first AI province. That is his ambition and aim. And because of that, he created. Here you see that perhaps in Korea recently, in our university we have just started a department of AI, and some other university, they are now coming up with some program and something or some department. But in 2019, when I visited there, that is an entire college. Entire college is a college of AI. So I could not believe it, that how it is possible. And I become astonished. And then I told, hey, you created a college. What kind of talk I can give to you? You are already experts on that kind of thing. I don't have that kind of expertise to give. But you see, because they feel this guy might have something to say and they want to extract it from him, right? So that kind of leadership we need. So leadership is something we don't get very instantly. So our people should understand what is technology, what is the role of technology. Here we are responsible as an academician. We'll have to explain. They who are selling some sort of shingara, mithai, or those kinds of sweet in the market, we'll have to go to them and we'll have to somehow convince them that please, if you pay something on science tax on those, I'll give you these kind of things. So we need some sort of science popularizer in our countries, and people like you and some other that I see, I think you can do these kind of things to explain to them that why we need research, why we need science. And once we can convince people, people will be coming up with. Nowadays, perhaps you would see that people are talking about journal, COVID, vaccine, 19, those kind of things. I think this is a small things that society now at least wanted to, first look at the journal. Hey, is there any, logicals behind these kind of things? If no, that. So this kind of rationalism we need to introduce at every places. So our people, definitely history and those kind of things also there. But it's true that we are not in the pace. So we are doing some improvement, some research output, but comparatively and relatively, we are every day lagging behind. So, but time is not finished yet. We'll have to immediately think of the leadership should be coming from every sectors. Leadership should come from our village. Leadership should come from our bureaucracy things and from the university and from every scale. So some sort of initiation we need. For example, this platforms is also some sort of leader in this perspective. So once we have the leaders and community and some sort of, it is also some sort of NGO that you have one issue and you work for that issue. Now, when this reverberates along the name and convergence happens throughout the nations, maybe some things will be coming out. And at the same time, they will have the ability, like among us, they will have the some alignment, some sort of connections with higher bodies in university, and some people, maybe some of them are okay, some of them maybe can listen to us. So they who are in the country and from the outside, we can continuously knock them, and maybe somehow it might work, but it will take time. So that kind of patience we should have at the same times.
Right. Thank you, Doctor. The next question would be what are the opportunities for masters and PhD students in Korea? If happen to be that a lot of Bangladeshi masters and postgraduate students, especially masters and PhD students, they are somehow looking for some kind of networking connections to publish, and of course many of them they want to do their PhD somewhere in Korea and other countries. So what would be the prospects for Bangladeshi student in Korea?
So prospect is very huge, and the Korea really spend a lot of money for science and research and innovations. And from students' perspectives, they were really interested. They wanted to have their higher studies. I think if they really want, there are lots of opportunities in this. From every university's fund coming from centrally, funds coming from the individual professors, funds coming from individual groups. And I think most of the universities, Bangladeshi students are taking their higher studies. So, and perhaps that there is a BASA. I mean, I can give you this website here. I'm giving on private. Maybe if you want, you can share this website. This website actually gives you, it is an organization for Bangladeshi students in Korea, and here comprehensive information are there that how one can get the fund, how one can communicate with the professors, what are the different kinds of things they can get the help from them. And I would say that prospects in every sector, from chemical engineering, that's simple information technology, computer science, even some other journalism and those biotechnology. So every sectors, the funds are available. There is no shortage in fund. Just they should have a desires. They should have a passions that they wanted to come here. And once they decide they will come here, I think they will find a way. So how they can come, and there are plenty of scholarships. There are plenty of scopes. And I know that our young generations is really doing good. With many of them, I personally have collaborations from 𝐶UET, from 𝐕ET, from Chattogram University, and we publish paper together. Sometimes they need some little kinds of motivations and initiation. I always give them. I try to write paper with them even. So, and I also get good response from them, but some of them are not that motivated. So I can give the examples that please you just see that how others are doing. Even they are in Bangladesh, but they are having good journal papers, good conference papers, and based on that they can easily get scholarships here and there. So I really suggest that please you just take the opportunities. You just look for the various website. I think this, if someone is interested in Korea, they can consult with the website that I gave. So from this website, I think there are lots of informations and there are lots of motivation they will get it. And many students are working here now.
Right, Doctor. Apart from producing journal articles in Korea or from Korean University, how they are translating this research paper into actions or into prototype or into
so lab
innovation.
in academic lab itself, they build up some small scale prototype. That's really toy type, that in academic how it works.
Right.
Because in academic we don't be strict to one thing a very long time. We just see the simulations, we just see the prototype it functioning, then we actually stop that. Now some of us actually are very selected, maybe 10 to 20%, they pursue their innovations to a next level, and some of them they set up the company professor's level, and some of them they don't have their own company, but they do collaborate with some local company, and there are lots of companies here in Korea. So I mean, this is the heart of Korean innovations. Some names that we know about, the Samsung, LG, these are actually just something that we just see a big star from a very far distant, right? But there are lots of small company. So that company basically producing lots of one product, two products. That the headphone that I'm actually having, perhaps some one company they come up with, and here all of the signal processing things, how things are working. So that kind of knowledge came from the university. Maybe some partnerships we have. So right after their degree and PhD, I'm sure that if they like to do work in real time, the real life works, so they can do it. And there is plenty of scopes for doing to translate their knowledge into innovation. That's the one of the great things in Korea, that you just gather the knowledge and immediately you can work. But in university laboratory setup, we don't continue that things, because we need to step up, because we explore the horizontal research, not just vertical improvement. So sometimes our research is maybe so theoretical that it might become after 50 years. But at the same time, we are implementing some of the prototypes, and if company wants, and we are producing patent, and based on the patents, if some company wants, they can actually collaborate us. And then I myself has also various kind of patents, and many companies there might be interested, and so they can work with us, and we can help them by our consultancy, and also we can help them to supply the basic knowledge level engineers they require. So these are ways. So academic and industry are highly interactive here in Korea.
Right, Doctor, you mentioned that you are working with 5G, and also you are in the area of computer science and engineering. So how could your research would be contributing to promote digitalization in Bangladesh? As we all heard about, the Bangladesh is moving in the digitalizations, and we are in the digitalization, but maybe not yet that level that we're expecting. So how could this research, the academic research, that could promote more or maybe accelerate the pace of the digitalization in Bangladesh?
Few days back, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks back, one of on the request of one of my friends, I was having a talk, by BD STEM. They organized BD STEM. So they organized some sort of interdisciplinary some webinar title. So there my talk was on digitalization in universities in Bangladesh. So there I really gave a very short and yet thought-provoking that how we can take the advantage of that. So I'm not talking about the entire digitalizations, because as an academicians, I like to focus on the educations. In our universities, we really need to digitalize our entire systems itself. So at the very first phase, we really need to know that that can we manage everything digitally, that our education and university infrastructure, can we have a very parallel virtual things. For example, because of COVID-19, now Bangladesh is really seriously facing the troubles, I think, compared to any other country. It is because we are not prepared at all, and we don't have any infrastructure that we can conduct digitally. We don't know that who are our students. Our students cannot check in. Even our profile is not integrated through the digital systems. We cannot enter. We cannot conduct our exam. We cannot conduct the lectures. We cannot conduct nothing we can do. So at the first phase, we are experienced. I think you are also inexperienced in UM, that that how you are actually, conducting your lectures, from using your digital platforms, like either,
right.
Also, how you can conduct exam online, and your university is giving, and you can record your lectures by university provided in your software. So that kind of things we have here. Everything that your tax system is integrated with your university system, your employee system, your general affairs systems, your research administration system. You will apply for some benefits that's also integrated with the systems. You will report something that is also integrated within the system. You will take asking for a travel permission from your authority, that is also part of the integrated system. So that's things we are used to, part of the digitalizations. So that kind of things we need to do, and I think we are, most people, we are experienced for that at least from the user perspectives. Now from the research perspectives, yes, we have some experiences that what sort of security matters that we need to brought up, what are sort of the 5G, the communication aspects, where are the problems, everywhere. Now you go in any village, any even in a district town, you go in the local town, that the speed is not that, even though our telecom operators, they are saying that their speed is 4G, 4.5G, 3.5G, but you will hardly get speed, that kind of things there. We can actually give some complementary assistance to understand these things to our regulatory authority as academicians, that where are those problems, I mean, why they cannot do it, what are the problems they are dealing with, what are the loopholes the corporates they are trying to taking us, they are taking us money, they're not giving the service, they're taking us something different kind of things. So that is a whole package that we need to address regarding infrastructure setup, in university context, and at the same time setting up the nationwide telecom facilities, so that we can directly give some sort of realization and insights from our experiences.
Right. Doctor, well, when you taught in Dhaka University, of course, you taught undergraduate students, and now in Korea, you are also, I'm not sure whether you are teaching undergraduate students. If you do, then what is the different mechanism, or what is the different strategy that they are following? Because when it comes to postgraduate students, we talk about research, we talk about all these publications and all. But when it comes to purely undergraduate, do you see the different any different in terms of teaching style or strategy in undergraduate?
Yes, it's also a good question. I mean, I'll share my experiences. I mean, I remember that even though I started some part-time lecturers when I was in in master's student in Dhaka University, I was in some institute, I was giving some part-time lectures, and I think that was not good. I mean, why? I mean, just I finished a honors degree and I should teach. So that is a long back, but anyway, so I'm not going to that direction again. We already talked on that. So when I teach undergraduate students here in every semester, one course we must take an undergraduate degree, and the remaining course we can take for graduate degree. So here the big differences is, here the instructor or teacher, professor, they are well qualified to teach, and because they are research oriented guys, they know that what they want to teach them and how these things are related to the next step. This kind of interrelation is largely absent in our country. So we really handle in back countries really good students, but due to the lack of experiences of our I mean, I would say that many of our colleagues, they who are really have just an undergraduate degree, or perhaps a simple master's degree, and that master's degree questionable in many sense from our country. So I think we really need immediate replacements, that all the instructors should have at least a PhD degree, because then they can understand what are the research and how they can relate their studies to this one. Let me just tell you my things. When I teach them in statistics, here I teach probability and statistics programming. One course that I regularly teach is probability and statistics programming. And in this course, I really give the real problems in there. I know that is a very close work, but it's a real problem when I give as a project or some how to say some assignment and homework, because I know that when I'm teaching their distributions, let's say let's say some normal distributions or some other kind of distributions, I know that where they will exactly face the problem after 2 years. I know that things, and I know that exactly what things I need to teach them in a statistic, so that they can really utilize these things when they will mathematically formulate their problems in research and even in real life. So that things are largely absent. We have to give very real life problem based things and problem based solution. So problems, and the instructor who can see that the futures, that how the students are going to face the problem, that kind of I would say intuitions the students should get from the students, and the big motivation that how their course is will be related to some other stuffs, right? So if they can encompass the things, integrate the things, that why they are studying these things and how they will impact on some other course and their real life problems, I think it will be great. Also, other thing is the evaluation mechanism. How we evaluate in our country, we can improve. I think many of our young faculties, they goes back and they are trying to set up the new things. So we should not give the drive the equation and define this and that. That is already already defined. Why we need this question? Rather give some question that your question will be longer and larger, but answer will be very small, so that the students brain will be stimulated. So they don't they need memorize something, but not just a memorizing machine. It should not be a memorizing machine. So I think that kind of fundamental approach that we can change. And some of the course, maybe you also see in your university, the some of the course should be really capstone design. Then right. Some of the course should be kind of how to say that is PBL method, right? That problem based learning. So that kind of little bit curriculum design we need. And as I told you, that why Chinese and why those people, they are actually ahead of us. There is also an issue that our curriculum should be change a little bit. We should really give the focus whatever the I would say that whatever the discipline you work for, whatever the discipline you research on, is statistics, mathematics, the algebra, the optimization stuffs. You work in finance, you work in management, it doesn't matter. You work in supply chain management, logistics, it doesn't matter. Communications, computer, it doesn't matter. Irrespective of any, if you really wanted to engage yourself in research in postgraduate study, you need to learn a good amount of mathematics, a good amount of statistics. So these things we really need to reshuffle and revise a lot. And we need to understand, our academicians need to understand that what are the course content that we will provide for that course, so that then they will not have any hurdles to come up with their curriculum, the postgraduate study and research. So I would say that mathematical optimizations and probability, statistics, random process, and some of the mathematical things, differential calculus and real life, those things are really need to be integrated, and a very great emphasis should be given on. And they will need to solve the real life problem based on that. And after, when they will study, they will have no problem. They will understand and they can produce lots of and tons of papers. Just they don't understand what are those and how it works.
Thank you, Doctor. Before we move on to our next sections, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, you can always put your question in the comment box, and we'll be reading your questions towards the end of our session in 10 minutes time. Moving on, Doctor, the other part of your, I would say, success, I see in terms of publishing research articles in top journal and also being a guest editor. So you published more than 100 articles, research articles in conferences, and you attended all over the world, I would say, prestigious conferences, and also being a guest editor for a few journals. So if you could share your experience about publishing and all those journey. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. This question has many dimensions. But I don't know. I mean, how? I mean, I might be random because not prepared talk. You know that. So yeah, sometimes you start with one direction, but you end up with another direction. It happens. So okay, so let's talk about the publications. Publications is also a process, and so if it is a process, then it has some phase and stages. And same that it starts with something. Well, it doesn't matter you are undergraduate students and postgraduate students, but definitely as you go forward, alongside the time, your maturity will be increased, you'll be more experienced. So in this way that will become more experienced as after 2 years, after 4 years, after 5 years. Same things happen for me. I told at the time in the beginning that in the beginning I didn't know that how to write a good research paper. So maybe some of my research paper, if I see now, very long back, then I laugh at it, that why I wrote this kind of things. But this is how it works. So our young generations, and they should actually start with a belief systems that they are in the learning process, and after they're learning, they'll be able to be somewhere in the whole venue and platform. They will be somewhere. And so this is a multi dimensional stakeholders are there, that our professors, our collaborators, our laboratory, our environment, our countries, and many other things. So in this way, after I think everybody knows what is research, and I'm not going in that directions. So once you get some confidence after publishing in some kind of medical journals and those, so then it will take you a next step. So in this way, we can actually upgrade ourselves. The same things happened on me. So recently I saw that many, even with me, some undergraduate students, they just pass their undergrad degree, and they publish in good paper, not experimental work, because it was not possible sometimes from our country, but they did simulation works, because to do the computer simulations, yeah, not every nature, science, cells, and very A-class journals, they will not take just simulation. They want some other experimental works, especially for chemical engineering, material science, and those things. But it's at least it's still possible to produce some quality level of journals. But for that, they really need to show the consistency and consistent effort. Just one-time rejections and then become demotivated, two-time rejection, then demotivated. In the early stage, the rejections is really painful, but when as an academicians, we become habituated to see these sorts of news of rejections every time. So we share that when a paper get accepted, right? But we don't say that how many times our paper was rejected. So if you really if we believe that we really solved some problem, either theoretical things, or we discussed a good report, we compiled a good reports. If we believe so, then just we need to improve from the rejections, and then we need to submit. We need to we need to believe on ourselves that we did something. So definitely there are some venues that we can publish on. So in this way we can publish. So this is simply I can say that for big publishers. So and for the big publisher, we don't necessarily target for the top class, but we should focus on our work, that we will do a good work and we will report our work, that what we did and what we believe. Now definitely there are some other factors and some copy editing, language issues like English language. So there are other issues that I'm not talking about. So this is one thing. And the other thing is that when you are actually with this community, that you have a community being an information and communications engineering and computer science, AI, IoT researchers. So I know that who are the other players in the field, in the community, in the world, even in Korea and outside. So sometimes we contact them, and sometimes we know that who are the company, who are those companies that are working with those problems. Sometimes it is good to invite them and to have a discussions. And hey, what is your problem that you are dealing with? My idea is to capture the problems from there. That sometimes from the academia you don't know what is the problem. In Bangladesh, I think surely some company, they are working to address some problems. For example, I can tell you that we are working on IoT stuff, Internet of Things, and those things, and communications. Now what we can do, at the same time, in every day problems finding from the country is very easy. Just you look at the newspaper. The newspaper, every day there are lots of problems. So just you have to identify those problems. That's what I believe. For examples, very often we see the the water transportation accident in our country, right? The ferry accident happens. So how sensors, IoT, communications can play? We can easily write that. Even actually, I remember in 2015 I wrote a very 2-page something. It is actually not a very special thing. Just we had a local conference. Just I told, hey, actually, IoT we can apply to address the problems happened in Bangladesh. We can, really reduce the problems just by notification stuff, by IoT sensor placement in ships and everywhere. So similarly, we can apply in agricultural sectors. Similarly, we can actually, immediately we can use, who are the rapists in our country. We can give the electronic tag in their ankle, and that will give the report to the local authority and local police. So once you do this kind of heinous crimes, we will use the technology to find you out and to prevent the things from you. So these kinds of local things and community things we can address. Now, so this I would say that how can we interpret? So these kinds of community activities in a bigger role when it comes about the publications and problem solving. So it is also good that with that community who are active in the publication process, in different venues, some people know them, some people know us, we know some people. So it is also good that to contribute as some sort of starting and the beginning of some initiators. So publishing is good, but then it is also good that how you help decimate other researchers in your community. So at the times we can be engaged and we can serve, that we can voluntarily provide some activities for conference arrangement and some journal arrangements. So these kind of things will also motivate ourselves that okay, I mean some other editors is working with us, we are going for the call for papers, and some people are submitting papers for us. So in this way it is win-win situation. You are being known to them and they are also becoming engaged to you more, and it also help us our people, our Bangladeshi peoples, that the Bangladeshi people also can initiate, can be engaged in this kind of editorial activities. They can also have a role, and many, I'm nothing actually compared to me. There are lots of Bangladeshi researchers, Bangladeshi, they are doing fantastic, great, they're organizing great conferences, and they are actually playing roles in different forums. So I think that kind of things also helpful for the self-motivation and also encouragement for the other community. So that's what I would say.
Doctor, to be very brief in being a guest editor, what general things you look for in a paper when you accept a paper?
So the very first things actually, I mean, we set up a very specific, topic, right? So specific, we have a very specific topic because this is how our people knows us. Whenever you actually, we show a call, when go for the call for paper. So the people would look at how must I recognize in that field. Just in a random pop-up and I just arrange a special issue, that doesn't make any sense. So maybe journal believe that I or you or some other guest editors, they really have some substantial contribution in the field, and so some other people will listen to them, they believe. For examples, I really had many some review articles, survey article, contributor articles on that how IoT can be useful for healthcare staffs. So I studied in 2014, and over the time I had several papers in that area and medical staffs and these. So I mean, I'm talking about my last guest editorialship, so that I had. So for that special issue, that's why I told that how wireless technologies can be enabling technologies for wireless health. So what are the techniques or on those kind of things. So then I gave that. So I set up some very specific topic and subtopics that any paper should focus on these things. So, and it might be a little bit little bit related is okay, but largely it should focus on health and those kind of things. The very first thing is that aims and scope, right? And the second thing is how relevant and how how recent, how trendy the research is. That's very important in a special issue, if not regular issue. And the third is, is it, reliable things or not, right? That reliable means, it's really the research question that they pose, it has some meaning or not. If it has meaning, if it attracts some interest for any community, either Bangladesh community, local community, or global community, then it is good. And after that, we see that what sort of evidence and what sort of proof they try to give, either theoretically or through prototyping and some sort of implementation. I think if this goes well, I think it's okay. And after that, we also take opinions for 2 reviewers, so based on that papers, if it goes well, so I think that's fine. So, and so this is something that I can say. If you have some other particular question, that I can answer in that way.
Great. It was very instrumental in nature and definitely incredible and handy for many of us. Ladies and gentlemen, now we'll be taking a few questions. The very first question is coming from Rabiul Alam. Doctor, you can see the question on the screen. Is there any funding opportunity for TESOL or as candidates to continue PhD?
So actually, I'm not very exact and sure about the language, but I do know that we have a forum in some engineering. Some professors in South Korea, and the professors are coming from from different countries actually. So we have that kind of foreign professors platform, and there I saw that some of the teachers, some of professors are actually ESL teacher, and for the language teacher, they don't necessarily need to have the PhD degree, but I saw that some of them, they are really doing the PhD degree. And I personally know some of my Korean friends, even some of the really junior or senior, they are doing the degree on English language and those kind of things. So I believe that I think it's limited compared to science, engineering, or natural science stuffs, but there are some opportunity. So I would suggest that to really directly contact with the university English department professors, and especially the head, and I think they will direct you that what sort of opportunity they might have. So for example, Yonsei University, Korea University, Seoul National University, those universities, they really offer PhD degree in language, especially in English language, EHL, and those kind of setups.
Right. Doctor, there's another questions they are mentioning, somehow trying to ask, like, what are the requirements in general in Korea? Do they need IELTS or any other language score, or apart from having the degrees to get a scholarship and admission in Korea?
Yes, most of the cases, because most of the cases, so that's why I'm saying yes. English score is necessary. So yes, English score is really necessary, and especially IELTS. But I would say that sometimes 5.5 score and 6 score works here. Yeah. So but if you want to apply for some landmark and some prestigious scholarships, for example, some Brain Korea and Korean government scholarships, so they would expect that you have better IELTS score, maybe 6.5, 7 even, because these days competition is fierce, especially for government scholarships. But for professors scholarships, many professors you will get easily if you have 5.5 or 6 IELTS, that's okay. And if you that's very exceptional, but if you really have the Korean knowledge, that's also work. There are some Korean topic scores and those kind of things, so that will also be helpful. But I would suggest for English scores, at least IELTS is okay. And many of our students, I know that they have some kind of fear and some sort of inertia in their mind to for the English on the English score, but really believe that if you just practice English is not that, it's just a tools to express. Just I would say, if you can talk in Bangla, first please you talk in Bangla. You try to practice in front of mirror that can you say 2 minutes on one topic in Bangla. If you can fluently say in Bangla, I'm sure that you can talk in English, because English is just a translation of that. It is not really hard. Please be motivated to talk something in English and practice English, read the newspapers and those things. If you can speak in Bangla, you can speak in English. That I would say.
Great, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, you can see there's a link on the screen, which is about if you know more about the study in Korea. I think that's what doctor provided. Doctor, if I'm not mistaken, if you see the link, I think this is
Yes, yes, that's good. I mean, that is the starting point that our viewers can go with.
Right. So if you just want to know more about Korea and higher study in Korea, you can always visit that website and also some Facebook groups to know more about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we wouldn't be able to take more questions. We'd like to thank our guest today, Dr. SM Riazul Islam. Thank you so much wholeheartedly for joining us and being on air with us. Definitely the last question, which will be in Bengali, that's how we are practicing. Riazul, Dr. Riazul ভাইয়া, যে আমাদের ইয়াং জেনারেশনের প্রতি যারা আসলে অনেক ক্ষেত্রে ডিমোটিভেটেড বা ফ্রাস্ট্রেটেড অনেকটা বলতে পারেন, যে বা অনেকে আমরা একেবারে রুরাল বা গ্রাম থেকে স্বপ্ন দেখতে পারি না, বা একটা কিছু করার স্বপ্ন দেখতে পারি না, অনেক হতাশার মাঝে, তাদের জন্য যদি আপনার কোনো আশার বাণী বা সাজেশন থেকে থাকে যে তারা কিভাবে আসলে গ্রো করতে পারে, বা আপনার মতো বা আরো অনেক যারা লার্জার দ্যান লাইফ ফিগার আছে আমাদের দেশের, তাদের মতো হতে পারে, যদি একটু সংক্ষেপে বলেন।
Okay, so it's really a good thing. Actually, sometimes and many times we ignore this, and in university we ignore this. We really don't have a very good quality mental support team in our countries in university. But maybe you notice that in every universities in abroad, they really have these teams very hard, especially in Europe and America. They really have these things very well. So I mean, there are many ways, many dimensions. I'm not really a public speaker to motivate for that, but I myself can give some examples. I learned many things from my father, and my father was just was in village, and the things I learned from my father that still I use today. That's, I think, a big motivation. Everybody of us, we had a father. Your father might be a farmer, our father might be maybe simply an office assistant. Our father might be a big officer, whatever. Irrespective of that, I'm sure father and mom is a learning source. Whenever you feel demotivated, just go back to your mom, go back to your father. That will really give us a very, very good suggestion. Many things they try to teach you, many things they provided you. Just remember that things. This is one thing. And I mean, if you give me many calculations, like, I mean, I should talk in Bangla, right?
Ji.
Okay. I'm sorry. So okay. I mean, switch between these things was messy. I'm sorry for that. So আমার আব্বার কাছ থেকে আসলে আমি অনেক কিছু শিখছি। হ্যাঁ, যেমন আমি আসলে যদি আমি মাছের বাজারে যাই, হ্যাঁ, কোনো মাছওয়ালা আমাকে ঠকাতে পারবে না। আপনি দেখবেন যে আসলে ছোটবেলায় কিন্তু আমরা যখন মাছ কিনতে গেছি, আপনি 16 টাকা সের মাছ বা মনে করেন যে 16 টাকা কেজি মাছ, এরপরে কিন্তু সে কিন্তু বললো আপনার মাছের কি 350 গ্রাম, এরপর সে একটা কুইক একটা হিসাব করে আপনাকে বলে দিচ্ছে এত টাকা, তাই না? বেশিরভাগ সময় ওদের ওই হিসাবটা ভুল। ও আপনাকে নিশ্চিত 1 টাকা 1.5 টাকা এদিক ওদিক করছে। I'm giving example just for this small amount of money, just to give an idea. So কিন্তু আমি জানি ওইটা কিভাবে হিসাব করতে হয়। তো এই যে মানুষ অঙ্ক আমি আমার আব্বার কাছ থেকে শিখছিলাম, হ্যাঁ, যে শেরের দাম যত টাকা, 6 টাকার দাম তত আনা, তাই না? তো তত আনা হলে খুব ইজিলি আমি হিসাব করে দিব। তো এরকম ভাবে আমি গ্রামে কাজ করছি, তো গ্রামে মাঠে কি বলে ধান খেতে কাজ করছি। আমার মনে আছে যে আমি যখন ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে যেতাম, আমার মা বলতো ওই যে একটা জমি আছে ওইখানে যদি একটু পানি দিয়ে আসিস তাহলে ধানটা ফলনটা ভালো হবে। তা আমার অন্য ভাই বোনও তো ছিল, তো তাদেরকে এইভাবে বলতো না, আমাকে কেন বলতো? আসলে ব্যাপারটা এরকম না। আমি ডেফিনেটলি লাভ ইজ ম্যাটার, বাট উই ক্যানট জাস্ট গিভ এভরিথিং অন দ্য ব্যাক অফ লাভ অলওয়েজ। এর মানে আমি আসলে পরিশ্রম করতাম। তো পরিশ্রম করে আমি আসলে পানি দিতাম খেতে দিন ভোর, সকালে বিকালে সেকে পানি দিতাম একটা ইয়ের থেকে আরেকটা, এই জন্যই তো ফলন ভালো হয়েছে। তো পরিশ্রমটা মেইন। তা আমার তো কিছু ছিল না, কি বলে আমি যখন গ্রাম থেকে গেছি শহর থেকে গেছি, ওইখানে প্রতিটা জায়গায় আমি আমি তো কলেজে ভালো রেজাল্ট করছি। জাস্ট ডোন্ট ফর সেইং মাইসেলফ, আই এম জাস্ট ট্রাইং টু মোটিভেটেড। তো বোর্ড স্ট্যান্ড করছি, এরপরে ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে ফার্স্ট ক্লাস ফার্স্ট হয়েছি। তা আমার তো ওই এরকমই তো, কিসের ফ্রাস্ট্রেশন, কোথায় ফ্রাস্ট্রেশন? ইফ সামওয়ান ওয়ার্কস, হাউ ক্যান ইউ ফ্রাস্ট্রেশনস মাইট get in? It doesn't really make sense that if we really work hard, how can that frustrations comes in? It's all about we have to believe ourselves, we have to consistently work hard. If you don't give up, you never fail. So that's the the success story. In fact, many times it might happen that we feel some kind of disappointment, but don't feel frustrated. Just আমাদেরকে যদি সামনে এগিয়ে যায়, আমরা যদি পরিশ্রমটাকে যদি চলমান রাখি, আমরা পরিশ্রমটাকে চলমান রাখলে এবং আমরা যদি কিছু আশেপাশে যদি আমরা খেয়াল করি, জাস্ট আমাদেরকে সেট করতে হবে আমি আসলে কোথায় যেতে চাই। ওই লক্ষ্যটা যদি আমাদের ঠিক থাকে যে আমি 2 ইয়ার্স সময় নেব, আমি 3 ইয়ার্স সময় নেব, 3 ইয়ার্সের মধ্যে আমি ওই জায়গায় যাব, তাহলে পারে আসলে সম্ভব। আর যদি জাস্ট আমি হয়তো কোনো স্কোপ আসবে সেই ওখানে আমি এটা করে নিলাম, নো, you learn something, but that learning will definitely be beneficial, maybe not now but in some other places. But at the same times we need to fix up that I really want in that place, so we know that I have to contact with that people, I have to be take the recommendation letters from my that professors, and আমাকে কি বলে ওইটা জোগাড় করতে হবে, ওইটার জন্য আমাকে তাহলে কি কি লাগবে, মানে ওই যে ব্যাক ট্রেসিং যে ক্যালকুলেশনটা, যেটা আসলে কোয়ান্টাম ফাউন্ডেশন বা ওইরকম কিছু একটা শিক্ষা দেয়, যেটা একটা মানুষের যে একটা কল্পনা যে আমি আসলে 3 বছর পর এরকম, তাহলে 3 বছর ব্যাক দেন আমার কি লাগবে, তাহলে পরে আসলে আর কোনো না। তো আমি যদি গ্রাম থেকে বা ওই রকম করে উঠে এরকম করে যে সারা বিশ্বের যে কোনো জায়গায় যদি যেতে পারি, যে কোনো জায়গায় টক দিতে পারি, then the same, the গ্রাম, so Bangladesh is just all about the গ্রাম। so আসলে সম্ভব, প্রতিজনের সম্ভব। সো আমি এটা এন্ড করবো একটা জিনিস দিয়ে, মোটিভেশন বা স্টাফ, সেটা হলো কিসের এত আমাদের হারানোর ভয়? এক কি বলে, আর তো কোনো প্রাণী তো চিন্তা করে না, আর তো কোনো প্রাণী তো ভাবে না, আমরা তো মানুষ এত চিন্তাগ্রস্ত হই কেন? তা আমাদের তো, আমরা যখন এসেছিলাম মায়ের পেট থেকে, তা আমরা তো কিছু নিয়ে আসিনি তো, আবার আমরা যখন ছেড়ে চলে যাবো আমরা তো কিছু কি বলে নিয়েও যাব না। তাই আমরা যতই সম্পদ দখল করি না কেন, করি না, এটা আসলে কোনো মিনিং নাই। তো সুতরাং জাস্ট একটা প্ল্যান করে you learn, try to learn something, and automatically the return will be coming. So that's I would say.
থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ, আপনাকে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ। যেটা সারমর্ম সেটা হচ্ছে কঠোর পরিশ্রম এবং অদম্য ইচ্ছা, এই দুটা জিনিস লেডিস এন্ড জেন্টলম্যান থাকতে
হবে, যে বেদুইনদের মতো, তাই না? যে বেদুইনরা যে কি বলে, এই জন্যই তো লেখে যে আমাদের কি বলে অনেক সময় কবিতাতেও আছে যে আমাদেরকে যে কি বলে, ইহার চেয়ে হতেম যদি আরব বেদুইন, তাই না? যে বাঙালি আমরা আসলে মার কাছ থেকে, চাচল থেকে ছেড়ে আসতে একটু কষ্ট লাগে। আসলে যারা আগে থেকে ছেড়ে যায় মায়ের কোল থেকে, আমার মনে আছে যে এসএসসি পরীক্ষার সময় আমি মার কাছে শুয়ে থেকেছি একসাথে, হ্যাঁ এসএসসি তখন তো 16 বছর বয়স, তারপর পরই আসলে কলেজে চলে যেতে হয়েছে, সেই 16 বছর বয়সে কচি মন, চোখ ছলো তারপর চলে যাবে, ভিতরে কষ্ট ছিল, কিন্তু ওই যে ছেড়ে যেতে হবে, হ্যাঁ কি ওইটা আমাদেরকে নিয়ে নিতে হবে যে না, আমরা কি বলে বেদুইনরা কেন সাকসেস, কারণ ওর তো হারানোর কোনো ভয় নেই, ও আসলে ছুটি চলে মরুভূমির ভিতর দিয়ে, এক জায়গায় যায় বসতি করে, আরেক জায়গায় গিয়ে বসতি করে, তারপরে কি বলে পায়ের চরণ তল দিয়ে সমস্ত কিছুকে দুর্বার করতে এগিয়ে চলে। আমাদের ওই বাঙালি পনার থেকে কিছুটা আসলে আমাদেরকে ছড়িয়ে আসতে হবে। আমরা বাঙালিত্ব রাখবো, কিন্তু আবার কিছুটা আমাদেরকে বেদুইনের যে নেচার সেটাও নিতে হবে।
আপনার কথায় হৃদয় সিক্ত হয়ে গেল, যাওয়ার সময় এসেছে, তো আমাদেরকে ছাড়তে হবে। লেডিস এন্ড জেন্টলম্যান, dedication and hard working could make us and reach us the success that we are looking forward to. So with that note, we would like to thank Dr. S.M. Riazul Islam for joining us this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us as well. So I'll be looking forward to seeing you next Friday. Stay with us, keep your eyes on, and we'll be back on next Friday, 8:30 p.m. Bangladesh time and 10 p.m. Malaysian time.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Bye. So bye. Yeah, see you.
ভালো থাকবেন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
Yes. Wa alaikum assalam.